we have Chris Kuper. He's from the Gun Owners of America to talk about a Second Amendment right, something that is under attack constantly here in the Supreme Court, defended as you saw at McDonald. Chris, please take us.
Chris Kuper, I work for Gun Owners of America. I'm sure most everybody here knows that on Monday, the Supreme Court handed down their ruling for McDonald in Chicago, and they claimed that the statewide, citywide, even a countywide ban on firearms is unconstitutional. Now, that's not a big surprise to anybody who's read the Constitution, who understands the history, and who understands the purpose of the Second Amendment. Now, a lot of people here may even think that this ruling was a large victory, but I don't know, in my opinion, a 5-4 ruling on the Second Amendment, arguably our most important fundamental right, and the oldest one, predating our Constitution by a millennia, seems less like a victory and kind of more like a warning of things to come. While other gun groups were praising lawmakers for giving us the privilege of even applying for a concealed carry permit, GOA was talking about the nominations that were sweeping through this administration. First, we were warning about Eric Holder, our Attorney General, who has openly said that he will ban all semi-automatic fire weapons if he gets the chance. We're talking about Harold Koh, who wants to impose UN treaties that would actually subjugate our own Constitution for UN arms treaties. We were talking about Cass Sunstein, Obama's regulatory czar, who would ban hunting and openly said he would ban all firearms as well. And of course, everybody remembers Sonia Sotomayor, who we were also opposing. The biggest problem right now is that the fight that we're at right now is being taken out of the hands of our elected representatives. It's being taken out of the hands of Congress, it's being taken out of the hands of the Senate, it's being brought to the bench. Now, everyone's talked about that, but what are the implications of that? The people that have it in their hands are posing as civil servants when they're really regulators and judicial activists. We watched pretty openly as Sonia Sotomayor lied her way through her confirmation hearings, giving answers that would feed the senators anything they wanted to. These things flew completely in contradiction to her personal and political ideology. Is it any surprise that her first Second Amendment hearing case she finds herself in the minority of the dissenters? She says this: "I can find nothing in the Second Amendment's text, history, or underlying rationale that could warrant characterizing it as a fundamental." Could anybody have foreseen this? Well, I know I did. I'm sure all of you did. I'm sure anyone who's been paying attention could have seen this. And that's exactly the problem. They think that they are bringing this battle to a place that we have no say in, but we do have a say in it. There is a movement right now happening at the state level. It's called the Firearms Freedom Act. It was started in Montana. It's been passed by 8 other states. It's being introduced in 19 others. The sole purpose of the Firearms Freedom Act is to sidestep the overreaching abuse of the Interstate Commerce Clause. What they plan to do is bring the legislation for the Second Amendment back to the state in what they call intrastate commerce clause. Now, what this essentially says is that any firearm that's made in that state and manufactured in that state from parts from that state, if it's bought from a person who resides in that state, there is no federal gun control laws that go onto that firearm. That's pretty huge. And obviously ATF didn't like that, so ATF didn't waste any time in bringing forth a memo, which was essentially a threat, that said to all federal firearms license holders that if you do not comply with federal law, if you side with state law that you voted for with your elected officials, then we will not only respond in force, we'll respond in seizures, and we will respond in prison time. And as they proved in Waco, Texas, they'll respond with violence if they need to. We are not obviously the instigators in this fight, we are the defenders. We understand what Jefferson wrote when he said that this is our last line of defense. This is the actual check and balance that goes between the people and the state. We cannot lose this. During Kagan's second day of confirmation hearings on Tuesday, Senator Grassley remarkably stumbled into a question that actually had some weight to it. And his question was, and I'll paraphrase, do you believe that the Constitution grants us rights, or do you believe that the Constitution's sole purpose is to recognize fundamental rights and to protect them? Pretty much after looking like a deer in the headlights, she kind of just said, well, Senator, I've never really thought about it before. This is either an outright lie to protect her leanings, or it's the mark of clear stupidity. Either one of those is damning evidence against her, in my opinion. Montana's already in court over their bill, over the Firearms Freedom Act. With the rate that this is sweeping the nation, in which the volume in which the states are getting involved with this, I strongly believe that it's going to be seen in the Supreme Court. Now, we just had a 5-4 ruling on Chicago. We're not going to have a 5-4 ruling again on the Firearms Freedom Act if Kagan is inside of this. It's really the person that we want deciding whether we have the right to defend our personal property, our lives, and our liberty. Now, since I'm the last person here, I just kind of want to say the one thing that's most important to me, and I think that it should be important to all of us right now, is that we continually keep bringing up the issue of rights. It's something that our generation needs to continually bring to the table to every single discussion. It's imperative that we understand the foundation in which these principles are based on, and we need to be well versed in them as well. We must continually assert that there is something higher than the government. Otherwise, it's just us complaining, it's just them mandating. Just because they have the power does not mean they have the authority. Just because they have the power does not mean they have the right. They can take away our liberty, but they cannot take away our rights. Even if the Second Amendment decided, even if the Supreme Court decided tomorrow that they were going to strip away the Second Amendment right from the Bill of Rights, we would still have it. It would still be there. It's something that we're born with, something that we're endowed with. This is something that we need to continually look into it. And I hope that we continue that fight, and I thank everyone for being here, and that's about it.
I'd like to thank Chris and the gun owners of America for standing up for Second Amendment rights.